Good evening, everybody. Blueberry came back to say hi tonight. So, the whole channel's been about reading and what reading does for you with mental health benefits and how it helps foster out of the box thinking, creativity, excites the brain, great for mental health. Um, One of the things I do when I'm working, and I know everybody has a different process, but whether I'm writing, working on a tech project, or helping the kids with something, I usually have music on in the background, and that music can be anything from classical to jazz to piano music to pop to rock. I'm the '80s guy, so it tends to be more '80s, '90s ish than sort of modern pop. And one of the things I like about music, at least certain types of music, is it helps spark a thought. It helps spark some notion of what, some sort of, hey, I didn't think about something that way. Because a lot of the musicians I listen to are trying to tell a story, right? Songs, at least rock songs and pop songs, are generally trying to tell a story. There's some exceptions to that in the modern sense. Little John comes to mind. Um, what happens between the window, the wall, and his balls, we don't really want to talk about. I don't really want to know too much about it, Little John. So, that's great for you. You've got it's a great beat, great in a club. I understand the audience you're going for, but it doesn't really help my work process. So, but to me, good music is sort of telling a story. And been listening a lot lately to Prince, the artist formerly known as and then known as Prince again, and he's since passed on, but he was very much an album guy, and his albums kind of got together, and all the songs had a theme to him, and he was trying to tell a story across that entire bridge. And with music as the backdrop, and he was probably one of the most productive musicians out there as far as output goes, because a lot of the stuff he recorded never came out when he was alive. It's starting to see come out now, but he put together some amazing albums. And I was listening to the song 1999 when I started thinking about this, and he was really telling a story there, right? So in his lyrics, he actually says, "Hey, I was dreaming when I wrote this. Forgive me if it goes astray. I was out of my mind when I was coming up with this stuff, or I was my subconscious doing it." And this was written right around when it came out, when 1999 was a thing, Y2K bug was a thing, and we were still kind of dealing with Cold War hangover. And 9/11 was still, way, way, way off. And one of the lyrics gets into, everybody's got a bomb. We could all die any day. So before we let that happen, let's go dance our life away. So really what Prince is trying to say here, I think, is, don't get so caught up in what could happen. Don't get so caught up in, well, someday we're all going to catastrophically end. Enjoy yourself for a minute, right? Just take a little time, chill out, have some fun. It's okay, right? We don't all have to be so serious all the time. And I think that's an interesting message to try to carry in, because I think as we all go into an election year, and I avoid politics like the plague, but as we all go into an election year, things are going to be taken very seriously. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. There's going to be a lot of whatever happens in the culture in these silly election years. But I think the message inside Prince's music is valid even today, and I think musicians from that era did like to tell a story. Musicians from this era do. There's some out there that do, not so much in albums as much as there once were, but things have evolved, right? We've got streaming now instead of having to go to the record store and buy the record, but it I'm not saying it's better or worse, it's just different, right? But there are still some great musical storytellers out there. But and in the '80s, we had some like Phil Collins. He would have some songs that were stories, and then he had Susa Studio, which is just this made up bullshit word that I guess he had a good tune in the back of and he needed lyrics for. But I think if we listen to music and we think about it a minute, it can actually get our brain to start to put together a few bits and pieces that might not be purely from the song. It might not be purely, what Prince was talking about, but it might cause you to think about something. And I don't know that he was actually telling people to, hey, don't worry about what might happen someday and just have fun and disconnect. I don't know if that was his point or not. Maybe he was trying to say just get rid of all nuclear weapons. I don't know. He's passed away, so there's no way for me to ask him. But I think the fact that his story that he had in the lyrics set with the music that he had was a great song. And I think it made me think. And that's kind of the point to reading, right? It makes you think. It makes you come up with ideas of your own. It makes you go in directions and think of things you wouldn't have otherwise thought of. So you know, if I could suggest anything to anybody as part of your process to help foster creativity, help foster how to be that out of the box thinker, and maybe even increase your productivity, is streaming services are great. Binge watching stuff is fantastic. If you're working and you keep something on in the background, hey, that works for you. What works best for me is music, and shut the streaming services off. We're kind of, I'm not anti-TV, I'm not anti-film. I'd love to have my books made into a movie, but I think we depend on it far too much these days. And I think there's a place for that storytelling and music to come back. And I certainly think that we can all do better as a reading public goes. So um, take this for what it's worth, but enjoy your process, whatever that is. But this is what works best for me. If you like the channel, click subscribe below, and we're going to keep focusing on the how to become more creative and how to foster sort of out of the box thinking through storytelling, whether that's music or books or what have you. Um, I think movies do have a place in that somewhere, but I think it's specific movies and not others. So we'll all cogitate on how to get that into the channel. But everybody have a great rest of your week. Click subscribe below.